first question to you is, what does D&I mean to you? I know it means different things to different organizations. Some organizations think of it as having more females in their workforce. Others think of it as having more women leaders or women board members. And others think of it as creating gender sensitive and female friendly organizations. But what does it mean to you?
I think it means a lot of what you said, but in my own definition, it's simply coexistence. Coexistence devoid of any biases of gender, race, special abilities, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. And when you look at it along with inclusion, then it refers to a work environment or a workplace which actually has a culture that flourishes and thrives through this diversity. So for me, they go hand in hand, D&I, and they together make magic.
As you look at defining the D&I agenda, what would be some of the critical elements you would encourage CEOs and CHROs to incorporate in their roadmap?
That's an interesting one. I think we've just about scraped the surface on this topic. There is much to learn and much to experience before we could even have, a sort of a charter drawn out. But I do think that leaders and organizations could do a few things differently to at least move in the right direction. My top picks would be, firstly, communication. I think communication around D&I, that it is not about concessions, it is not about special arrangements, it's about equality. And within equality also, it's about equity within equality. That's very, very critical. We majorly underestimate communication when it comes to D&I. We believe by putting up posters and sending out emailers, that's just the job done. It isn't. Sometimes we inadvertently alienate another group because we are trying to project special arrangements for one group. So then it's not equitable. So, and going back to my first comment on diversity, for me, it means equity. So first point I would say is definitely communication, and there is no such thing as over communication when it comes to D&I. The second thing, and this is based off my own personal experience, is that to have visibility of role models. There is nothing more powerful than to see someone within your own environment, within your own organization, who you could look up to and aspire to be like. And it's very important to humanize these role models. We're not looking for superhumans. No supermans and superwomen are we looking for. You want people who are real, who've gone through ups and downs, who have had difficulties, and then have managed to overcome those difficulties and yet reach the heights of accomplishment. So humanizing the role models is the job that the organization needs to take a lead on. And I think it's very, very critical. I think the third thing for me would be just something my years of training have taught me is leadership behavior, and that never goes out of fashion. As a leader, you're constantly being watched. People are looking at you and they're looking at what behaviors you're demonstrating. So when through your behavior, through your communication, through the way you're making decisions, you're actually, what they say, walk the talk. If you're actually able to do that, that is when it will stick. These behaviors will get emulated by those who are observing the leader. And before you know it, without a penny spent, this seamlessly gets entrenched into the normal working of the organization. And that's exactly what a leader's job should be. So I think the role of the leader becomes very, very important. The fourth point that I'd like to make is a little bit tactical. This is around neutrality of language. Amongst all forms of discrimination, the maximum harm is brought about by language. That's the common culprit. Now, let me give you a few examples. Manpower, chairman, women only, preference will be given to. You've heard some of these terms, right? Now, here, this one, fair and equal. Fair, in English language, it translates to light skin. Now, you're basically using very damaging words, and often organizations and sometimes even communication experts underestimate this. So neutrality of language in both written as well as verbal communication is very, very critical. And the fifth is really where the rubber meets the road for me. That's the actual workplace. Now, I know that there are many people who are talking about what the workplace conducive for D&I should be, so I don't want to go into detail. But as a design thinking practitioner myself, I'd like to give you an example. Now, let's assume I hire a woman driver. I'm practicing diversity and equal employment opportunity by giving that opportunity to a woman, right? And I feel hefty thrilled doing it, right? Because this is different and I'm doing it. I'm delivering on the agenda. Now, my driver drops me at my office and proceeds to what's known as the driver's rest area. Now, tell me, do you know what the toilet of the driver's room looks like? Have you ever seen it? In the most swanky office complexes, drivers' restrooms are still not catering to all genders. Now, there goes my inclusiveness agenda. I practice diversity, but I couldn't practice inclusiveness. So that is where you need to look at D&I together. And as you build your charter of D&I, some of these fundamental building blocks. I mean, this is really no rocket science. This is very, very fundamental. But these fundamental building blocks could help organizations and leaders look at their D&I agenda differently.
Great, fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. I thought that was very insightful. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone who's viewing this from your perspective. So thank you so much, Shaaista, for joining us.
My pleasure entirely. Wishing you a very happy Women's Day and more power to all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.